The grand hall of the Zillyrian Empire shimmered with light from floating crystal orbs, casting a soft glow on the silver and emerald architecture. Ethan Cade, the human ambassador, stood at the center of it all, feeling both out of place and oddly curious. Around him, towering Zillyrians in flowing robes observed him with a mix of awe and confusion. He was the first human to ever step foot in the imperial court, and they couldn't hide their fascination with his smaller stature and soft-looking features. Ethan had been chosen for this mission not just for his sharp diplomatic skills, but also for his unique ability to stay calm under pressure. Humanity needed this alliance to stand a chance against the Krell, a brutal species determined to conquer the galaxy. As he adjusted his formal suit, he reminded himself that this wasn't just about politics, it was about survival. A soft chime echoed through the hall, and Queen Veshel herself appeared. She moved gracefully, her crystalline crown catching the light as her 6 eyes studied Ethan. Her presence was commanding, her voice resonating with authority as she welcomed him. Ethan Cade, representative of Earth, you stand before the Zillyrian throne. Speak your purpose. Ethan bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had practiced. Your Majesty, I come in peace and with hope for a shared future. Humanity seeks to stand alongside the Zillyrian Empire against the Krell. Together, I believe we can protect our peoples and our worlds. The Queen's gaze lingered on him for a moment longer before she nodded, a bold claim for a species so new to the stars. But I am intrigued. As the formalities concluded, Ethan was escorted to his quarters by a group of royal handmaidens. Unlike the Queen, their curiosity was far less restrained. Arisva, the tallest of the group, leaned closer to inspect him. You're softer than I expected, she mused, her voice tinged with curiosity. Valthea, another handmaiden, huffed. Careful, Arisva. He might be fragile. Ethan chuckled, finding their fascination amusing. I assure you, humans are tougher than we look. The handmaidens exchanged glances, their interest in the human only deepening. Little did Ethan know, this was just the beginning of a rivalry that would turn his stay into something far more complicated and far more entertaining. The Zillyrian Royal Bathhouse was a marvel of alien engineering. It was a massive dome of glowing blue tiles, filled with steaming pools of water that shimmered with tiny floating crystals. Ethan Cade stood at the edge of the largest pool, a towel slung over his shoulder, as he stared in awe at the serene beauty around him. This was supposed to be a moment of peace after an exhausting day of diplomatic talks. What he didn't know was that peace wasn't on the schedule today. As Ethan dipped a toe into the warm water, he heard the soft hum of footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw the Queen's handmaidens approaching. There were 5 of them, each wearing elegant robes that seemed to flow like liquid silk. Arisva, the tallest and boldest, stepped forward. Ambassador Cade, she said with a respectful bow, it is an honor to assist you in your bathing ritual. As you are a guest of the Queen, this is our sacred duty. Ethan blinked, not entirely sure he had heard her correctly. Assist me. Yes, Arisva replied confidently. We will wash your back, as is customary for honored guests. Before Ethan could process this, Valthea stepped forward, her expression cool but determined. Actually, I will perform the task. I have studied human anatomy more extensively. It is only logical. Arisva turned sharply to her. Your studies are irrelevant. I was the first to welcome him to the court. Valthea raised a brow, her tone sharpening. And yet you lack the finesse required for such an important task. Leave it to me. The argument began to escalate as the other handmaidens chimed in, each insisting they were the most qualified to wash Ethan's back. Their voices grew louder, echoing off the bathhouse walls. Ethan, caught in the middle, raised his hands in a mix of confusion and amusement. Ladies, please, he said, trying to sound diplomatic. It's really not necessary. Humans can handle bathing ourselves. But his words were ignored as the handmaidens continued to bicker, their competitive nature now fully unleashed. Ethan sighed, realizing that what should have been a relaxing evening was quickly turning into one of the most bizarre moments of his life. The next morning, Queen Veshel sat upon her crystalline throne, listening with quiet amusement as her handmaidens recounted the previous night's events in the bathhouse. Each of them tried to justify their actions, speaking over one another in a chaotic mix of explanations and complaints. He needed proper guidance. "Your Majesty," Arisva said, crossing her arms. "I was merely fulfilling my duties." Valthea interrupted, rolling her eyes. "You mean you were trying to win his favor? I, on the other hand, was acting with precision and care." The queen raised a hand, silencing the room. Her 6 eyes, shimmering like polished gems, turned toward the flustered group. "Enough. This is not the first time I have seen your enthusiasm lead to unnecessary drama." The handmaidens fell silent, exchanging nervous glances. Queen Veshel turned her gaze toward the door, where Ethan was waiting to be summoned. "Bring him in," she commanded. Moments later, Ethan entered the room, his steps steady despite the intimidating atmosphere. He bowed respectfully, his expression calm yet curious. "Ambassador Cade," the queen began, her voice smooth and commanding, "it seems your presence here has stirred an unusual amount of interest among my handmaidens." Ethan couldn't help but smile. "Your Majesty, I believe they were simply trying to make me feel welcome." Perhaps a little too enthusiastically. The queen's lips curved into a faint smile. "You are diplomatic, as expected, but I wish to understand something. My handmaidens are among the most disciplined in the Empire, yet they bicker over who gets to wash your back. Why do you think that is?" Ethan hesitated, unsure how to respond without offending anyone. "Perhaps it's just curiosity about humans. We're a relatively new species in the galactic community, after all." The queen tilted her head, her gaze thoughtful. "Perhaps, or perhaps there is something unique about humanity that draws such attention. I will observe this further." Ethan suppressed a chuckle. The idea of being the subject of royal observation felt both strange and amusing. As the queen dismissed him, she gave a final warning to her handmaidens. "Let this rivalry not disrupt the court. If you must compete, do so with dignity, and do not embarrass me again." The handmaidens bowed, but Ethan could sense their rivalry was far from over. If anything, it seemed they had only grown more determined. Ethan Cade sat in the center of the Queen's Grand Council chamber, surrounded by Zolirian officials who scrutinized his every word. The room pulsed with tension as he presented humanity's strategy to fight the Krell, a species known for their brutal efficiency in war. Charts and holograms hovered above the table, showcasing Earth's military tactics. One council member, a stern Zolirian general with sharp features, leaned forward. "Human strategies are unconventional," he remarked, his voice tinged with skepticism, "relying on adaptability and creativity instead of rigid formations." "It sounds reckless." Ethan gave a calm smile. "It may seem that way, General, but it works. The Krell are predictable. They rely on brute force. Humanity has always thrived by outthinking stronger opponents. It's why we're still standing in this galaxy." The room murmured with mixed opinions. Queen Veshel raised a hand to silence the chatter. Her 6 eyes glimmered as she regarded Ethan. "Your words are bold, Ambassador. If you wish to convince my court, you must prove humanity's methods are not just talk. You will undergo the trial of resolve." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Trial of resolve." The queen's lips curved into a slight smile. "It is a test of endurance and adaptability. If you succeed, you will not only win the trust of my council, but also demonstrate the strength of your species." Ethan nodded, his curiosity piqued. "I accept." Later that day, Ethan found himself in the trial hall, a massive arena filled with holographic obstacles, shifting platforms, and simulated combat scenarios. Watching from the stands were the queen, her council, and, of course, her handmaidens, who whispered among themselves. "Do you think he'll make it?" Valthea asked, her tone skeptical. "Of course," Arisva replied with confidence. Humans are fascinatingly resilient. The trial began. Ethan darted through the course, using his agility and quick thinking to outmaneuver traps and holographic foes. Where brute strength failed, his ingenuity shone. He used the environment to his advantage, leaping over barriers and disarming simulated enemies with improvised tools. By the end, Ethan stood at the center of the arena, panting but victorious. The crowd erupted into applause, and even the skeptical general nodded in approval. From the stands, the handmaidens exchanged knowing smiles. If they hadn't already been impressed by Ethan, they certainly were now. However, their silent rivalry over the human only grew stronger. After all, a man like that was worth fighting for, literally. The celebration of Ethan's success in the trial of resolve was short-lived. News of a Krell assault on the Zillyrian border colonies reached the court the following morning. The details were grim. Entire cities had been razed, millions displaced, and the Krell's new weapon, an energy disruptor, rendered shields and defenses useless. The Royal Council gathered in urgent session, the atmosphere thick with tension. Holograms displayed the devastation, and murmurs of fear and uncertainty spread through the chamber. Queen Veshel stood, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We cannot allow the Krell to advance any further. Ambassador Cade, your species has faced impossible odds before. What would humanity do in our place?" Ethan stepped forward, the weight of the question pressing on him. He looked at the council members, then at the Queen. Humans have always relied on one thing: teamwork. If this alliance is to survive, we need to combine our strengths. The Zillyrians are brilliant strategists, but your methods rely on structure. The Krell exploit that. Humans are chaotic by nature, and that chaos might be the key to throwing the Krell off balance. The Queen tilted her head, intrigued. "And what do you propose?" Ethan activated a hologram of the Krell fleet. "Their energy disruptor is devastating, but it's likely centralized. If we can infiltrate and destroy their command ship, their weapon might fall apart. We'll need a small, fast team, one that can adapt on the fly." The council murmured again, but the Queen silenced them. A bold plan. But who would lead such a mission? Ethan took a deep breath. "I will, with your best soldiers." To his surprise, the Queen's handmaidens stepped forward as one. Arisfa spoke first, her voice steady. "Your Majesty, we volunteer to join the ambassador. We have trained for years and are skilled in covert operations." Valthea added with a smirk, "And we've spent enough time with the human to know how he thinks. We'll keep him alive." The Queen studied her handmaidens for a moment before nodding. "Very well. You shall join the mission. But remember, this is not just about survival. It is about showing the Krell the strength of this alliance." As the handmaidens prepared alongside Ethan, the rivalry between them softened. Though they still exchanged teasing remarks, they understood the stakes. For now, the fight over Ethan would wait. Together, they had a galaxy to save. The sleek infiltration craft hummed quietly as it slipped through the dark void, weaving between Krell ships patrolling the area. Ethan sat at the helm, his eyes fixed on the Krell command ship ahead. Beside him were the Queen's handmaidens, Arisfa, Valthea, and 3 others, all clad in lightweight combat armor that shimmered faintly under the dim cabin lights. "Remember," Ethan said, his voice low but firm, "this mission depends on speed and precision. We take out their disruptor core and get out before they realize what's happening." Arisfa smirked. "And here I thought humans liked chaos." Ethan chuckled. "Chaos works best when it's controlled." The ship docked stealthily against the Krell command ship's hull. As the team disembarked, the cold, metallic corridors of the alien vessel stretched before them, dimly lit and eerily silent. Arisfa led the way, her movements swift and calculated. Valthea stayed close to Ethan, her sharp eyes scanning for any signs of danger. They encountered their first obstacle, a group of Krell soldiers guarding the entrance to the disruptor core chamber. Ethan gestured for the team to halt. Arisva, Valthea, flank them. I'll create a distraction." Before Valthea could protest, Ethan grabbed a nearby piece of debris and tossed it down the opposite corridor. The clatter drew the Krell's attention, and Arisva and Valthea struck with precision, disabling the guards without raising an alarm. "Not bad for a human," Valthea muttered as she helped Ethan up. "Not bad for a Zillyrian," Ethan shot back with a grin. Inside the disruptor core chamber, the team faced their biggest challenge yet. The core was heavily guarded, and the energy field protecting it required complex overrides to disable. Ethan worked furiously on the controls while the Handmaidens held off waves of Krell reinforcements. The Handmaidens, despite their usual rivalry, fought as a seamless unit. Arisva's strength and agility complemented Valthea's tactical precision, while the others provided crucial support. With seconds to spare, Ethan disabled the energy field. "Now," he shouted, and Arisva hurled an explosive charge onto the core. The team sprinted back to their ship as the Krell vessel began to shake violently. As they escaped into the void, watching the Krell command ship erupt in flames, Ethan looked at the Handmaidens and grinned. Not bad teamwork. Valthea smirked. "Don't get used to it, human." For now, they were united. The galaxy wasn't safe yet, but this victory proved the alliance had potential. The Zillyrian capital erupted in celebration as the news spread. Ethan Cade and the Queen's Handmaidens had destroyed the Krell disruptor, crippling their fleet and forcing them into retreat. The alliance's first major victory was a moment of triumph, uniting humans and Zillyrians in shared hope. Ethan stood in the Grand Hall once again, this time not as a stranger but as a hero. The Queen addressed the gathered crowd, her voice regal and clear. "Today, we honor those who stood against the Krell, risking their lives to protect our worlds. Ambassador Cade, your courage and ingenuity have earned humanity a place among the stars. You have shown us the value of unity." Ethan bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, this victory was not mine alone. Your handmaidens fought bravely, proving that Zillyrian strength and human creativity are a powerful combination." At this, the handmaidens stepped forward, each one standing tall despite the fatigue still evident in their eyes. Arisva gave a small, confident smile. "It was an honor to fight alongside you, Ambassador, even if humans are unpredictable." Valthea smirked, and prone to risky decisions. Ethan laughed, shaking his head. "You're not wrong." The Queen's 6 eyes sparkled with amusement. "It seems my handmaidens have learned the value of collaboration, and perhaps gained a new appreciation for humanity." The banquet that followed was a lively affair. Humans and Zillyrians mingled, sharing stories of their cultures and their struggles. The handmaidens, however, were not content to let the evening pass without making their mark. As Ethan reached for a goblet of sparkling Zillyrian nectar, Valthea placed a hand on his shoulder. "Ambassador, you still owe us an answer." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "An answer to what?" Arisva crossed her arms, her expression playful. "Who was the better teammate during the mission, me or Valthea?" The other handmaidens chuckled, clearly enjoying the continued rivalry. Ethan groaned in mock exasperation. "You're really not letting this go, are you?" Valthea smirked. "We take our duties seriously." With a laugh, Ethan raised his goblet. "How about this? You are all incredible. And to ensure fairness, I'll let you argue it out, while I enjoy this feast." The hall erupted in laughter, and even the Queen smiled at the exchange. Humanity had not only gained an alliance, but also left an indelible mark on the Zillyrian Empire. Together, they had shown that hope, resilience, and a little bit of chaos could change the galaxy.